As we go marching, marching, unnumbered women dead, go crying through our singing their ancient call for bread. Small art and love and beauty, their drudging spirits new. Yes, it is bread we fight for, but we fight for roses too. Our struggle as well as body, bread and roses, bread and roses.
Hello, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Westside congregation. We are glad you're joining our service today. I am Susan Fox, the service associate, and our speaker for the day is the Reverend Judy Deutsch. Our program is titled Giving Labor Its Due. It is founded on principles number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Our source today is source number 2, words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. We hope you gain a deeper understanding of how these are at work in our lives through the materials presented here today. Today we thank Carol Eaglehart for her work in taping and compiling our video. If this is your first encounter with Westside, we welcome you. We're glad you found us online. We hope you will continue to connect with us in the future. If you have questions about our congregation, please contact Reverend Dr. Nancy Hitt, our consulting minister. She can be reached at ministeruuwc@gmail.com. Here are the announcements for today. We are ramping up for the launch of our Westside Reads Little Free Library program. If you would like to be part of building the library structures that will house the books, if you have building supplies to contribute, if you are willing to work on fundraising, please contact Reverend Nancy. Our video history project is underway. Our startup team met this past week for the first time. They need your photos, your memories, and your questions about the history of our congregation. Please contact Laurel Anderson or Carol Eaglehart if you would like to participate in this project. Storehouse West donations will be collected today, September the 6th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They will happily accept your donation of canned or dry goods along with health and hygiene products. They also need your reusable plastic grocery bags. Please wear a mask to drop off your donation. Lastly, Reverend Nancy is on vacation at this time. She will return on Sunday, September 20th. If you have an urgent pastoral care need, please call her. If you have other questions or concerns, please contact Steve Poyani, your board president, or any member of the board. Please join me in our chalice lighting as the words appear on your screen. May the light from our chalice flame illuminate our lives. May we see the effects of our economic systems on all people. May we be motivated to work for justice and equity in everything. Shalom and blessed be. Please join me now as we affirm our aspirations together. The words will appear on your screen. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. I invite you now to join me in a moment for centering. Sit back and relax into your seat, uncrossing your ankles, wrists, knees. Close your eyes gently if you are comfortable doing so. Focus on your breath, breathing fully and deeply in and out, expanding your belly as you inhale, exhaling through your nose. Let the tension and chaos of your mind go quiet. Just breathe, blanking out stray thoughts, calming yourself, sinking down into your center, relaxed and still. Rest in yourself, breathing fully and deeply. Now gradually let your awareness rise within you, slowly like a bubble. Float back into the here and now, continuing to breathe fully and deeply. Find yourself relaxed and alert. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Shalom. It is our custom each week to share some of our joys and concerns with each other as we build our network of community. If you have a personal joys and concerns candle at home, draw it closer to you now. I will invite you to light it as we light our final white candle together in a few moments. Today we share the joy at the start of some new projects. For our video history that will help to ground us in our roots, we are grateful, sharing the hope that our whole community will participate in many different ways. For our little free library project for the school children of Rio Rancho, we also hold joy and excitement and the hope of meaningful engagement with the larger community. We light a candle for joy, too, for our evolving sense of ourselves as an online community. As we continue to grow through the pandemic, we are glad for new opportunities and ways of being West Side together. We also light a candle of concern for those same school children, as well as students of all ages and teachers, parents, and school staff who are struggling to resume education this fall. Today we light a candle of concern for Lani Mraz as she brings her life to a close. We are glad that she is free of pain. We hold her and Joe close to our hearts at this difficult time in their lives. For all that we still hold in our hearts and minds, we light this last white candle together. Please light your personal candle at this time. For all the victims of racial violence, for those whose pain has gone unheard, unseen, and unacknowledged, we light this red candle in honor of their struggle and their lives. Shalom. Now, Bramcast Heck will share her animal ministry moment with us.
Hello. When you are present, you can sense the spirit, the one consciousness in every creature, and love it as yourself. This is a cat, and he has a lot to say. Realizing that despite the name catnip won't help me climb anything, there will be many positive humans who will support your goal of always being on the highest place. But there will also be bitter, salty to lick, underachieving humans who will try to keep you from climbing as high as you can, and some squirrels your ambition will just annoy. My human yells at me every time I jump from the bed to the top of the dresser, for no good reason, other than I often crash into her perfume bottles and make her room smell like a brothel for a week. But I don't let that keep me down. When she puts me outside, I immediately scale the drain pipe to the roof of the house. I always get stuck, and my human has to pop out the window in the upstairs bedroom to get me. But that's fine. It just reminds me that in a cat's life, People you meet on the way up are the same people you'll meet on the way down.
Today, I'm visiting Kathy Wright. We began with a tour of her catio. Not a patio, but a catio, a place for cats. Kathy had it designed so that her two cats could move freely and safely outdoors. There's Sammy, and there's Rusty, who's a little bit shy. Kathy also lives with her two dogs, Mischief and Queenie. She's been telling me about the early part of her career as a social worker in Michigan.
Child abuse was my specialty for my entire career in both my careers.
She would visit with children who had been abused, see what they needed, and advocate for them. But in Michigan, she ran up against a bad judge.
Because he kept returning those kids home no matter what we said, and they'd get beaten up again, and they'd come back into foster care, and he'd return them home again. And I just said, I can't deal with this. He won't listen to us. He thinks he knows everything, and he doesn't. And we lost a couple of children. A couple of children died because he kept returning them home.
No.
I am 100% for returning kids home. That is the goal, absolutely. But you got to know when that's not going to work.
She saw that the lawyers representing the children were often unprepared. She decided to go to law school to become an advocate for children.
I started the child abuse unit here in Bernalillo County, the first one in the state of New Mexico, in 1990. And we started with 3 attorneys, and now I think they're up to 15 attorneys, because child abuse is very prevalent here in Bernalillo County. Everybody says, how could you work in child abuse? Well, the key is you don't look at the pictures unless you have to, okay? And you take breaks. You have to take care of yourself, so you don't work, 365 days a year. You go off on a vacation periodically. I've traveled extensively. I've been to all 7 continents.
You can tell that by going through her house. This is the Africa Room, which features her collection of African animals, particularly giraffes.
I love buying local things, and my house is full of that kind of thing.
One of her collections is of frogs, all kinds of frogs that she's picked up along the way.
As you can see, I have a lot of them, and I have a variety of them, and I collect them wherever I go. Wherever I go. Travel. That's my passion. Has been all my life. I love going to different places, new cultures. Yes, I love my RV. I've probably put 70 or 80,000 miles on it. Yeah, because I've been to Canada in it. I've been all over. To me, the best RV trip is one that lasts 3 to 4 months. And that's what I had planned for this summer. Then the pandemic hit.
Instead, she has spent a lot of time on her tablet, painting pictures by number. But best of all, she spent the summer on FaceTime with her grandsons.
I love that time with my grandsons. We'd usually spend an hour and a half to 2 hours every day. It wasn't just reading, it was being together.
We're glad that Kathy has had this happy time with kids this summer, even if it had to be online. In a way, it's a reward for all those years she worked protecting the lives of children.
I am happy to share with you the information that we are currently in good financial shape. Your loyalty and responsibility are doing an excellent job of keeping Westside going during the pandemic. We thank you for your contributions. Our mailing address is Post Office Box 15146, Rio Rancho 87124. This is a reading entitled Co-Determination Takes the Spotlight in the U.S. by Stephen Hill. The case for U.S.-style co-determination is buttressed by some disturbing factual trends. In the early 1980s, America's biggest companies dedicated less than half of their profits to shareholders and reinvested most of their profits in the company and workforce. But over the last decade, those proportions have been turned on their head. Today, large American companies dedicate 93% of their earnings to shareholders instead of to workers or to bring long-term reinvestment in the company. Indeed, with the passage of the Trump tax bill in 2017, American companies announced more than $500 billion in stock buybacks in 2018, even as real wages remained flat. That's nearly a doubling from the early 1980s. The result is that booming corporate profits and rising worker productivity have not led to rising wages, but instead have led to a surging stock market. Yet the stock market helps relatively few Americans. 50% of all U.S. households own no stock at all. And of those households with stock, most own relatively small amounts. Indeed, the wealthiest top 10% of American households own 84% of all U.S. held stocks. So this dedication to maximizing shareholder value means that the multi-trillion-dollar American corporate system is mostly focused on making the richest Americans even richer.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Good morning. Tomorrow will be Labor Day. It has been celebrated mainly with big sales at big stores. Certainly not a way to give the people who labor in them time off to celebrate. In fact, many people have labored overtime in such stores on that day. There have also been celebratory dinners, picnics, and speeches. And before COVID-19, there were big parades. The contributions that labor has made and still make to our nation, the roads, the bridges, the railroads, the houses and other buildings, the automobiles, the trucks, the airplanes, the ships, the tanks, the drones, the cared for adults, elders, and infirm, the sales in retail shops, the services in restaurants, the cleaning in some of our houses, in hospitals, and on our streets are extremely evident. Also evident is the fact that we do not value financially many, probably most of those who labor for us. However, Labor Day was begun to celebrate the contributions our labor has made to the strength, prosperity, and well-being of our country, and to the social and economic achievement of American workers. It was first celebrated in New York City on Tuesday, September 5th, 1882, by the Central Labor Union and the Knights of Columbus. Municipalities began recognizing Labor Day in 1885. Oregon recognized it in 1887, and 24 states had recognized it by 1894. And on June 28, 1894, Congress made the first Monday in September a legal holiday to honor labor, thus tomorrow. That recognition was precipitated by the Pullman strike, in which 250,000 workers in 27 states joined forces with the Pullman Company workers who were striking because their wages had been cut, but their rent in company-owned housing was not. The strike included a massive boycott against all trains that included a car that had been made by the Pullman Company. And after the strikers refused to stop interfering with trains that carried the mail, the army was called in. 30 strikers were killed and 57 wounded. But 6 days after the strike ended, in order to conciliate organized labor, that is unions, President Cleveland and Congress designated Labor Day as a federal holiday. But what have been the economic achievements of American workers? Certainly they do not receive the income or even have the wealth of the upper 1 or even 10% of people in our nation. And the middle class, among whom many workers once were included, has largely disappeared. Many workers are now among those who receive the lowest incomes in our nation. And very many were unemployed even before the pandemic. And I often wonder, as I read about $15 per hour being touted as the desirable minimum wage, how well families throughout our nation can live on the $31,200 income that working 40 hours per week for 52 weeks at $15 per hour provides. How can they pay for food, health care, rent or mortgages, clothing, transportation, and education, and have money for recreation, and still be expected to save on this income? This is true as the income of paper pushers and so-called financial experts have greatly multiplied, and as many laboring jobs in textile firms, automobile manufacturing companies, etc., have gone to foreign lands, resulting in more money for the paper pushers and so-called financial experts, and much less for our nation's actual workers. This has been true as a large number of the nation's unions, one kind of organizations workers formed to try to get their due, have been forced out of existence. By the end of World War II, more than 12 million workers belonged to unions. And by 1970, about a third of America's wage earners, but not including the low-wage secondary labor market, belonged to them. Unions had helped workers to gain wage increases, pensions, and health insurance through collective bargaining. But 1980 saw the anti-union administration of President Reagan. And by the end of the 1980s, fewer than 17% of American workers were union members. And I remember being aghast in the mid-80s at a Hartford UU church dinner when a table mate boasted about his union busting practices. I'm still aghast. And there are union busting practices that may still exist. According to the U.S. Labor Department, union membership dropped to 10.3% of wage and salary workers in 2019. And according to a January 2020 CBS News report, the drop in union membership has been caused by fierce corporate opposition, spending millions of dollars in anti-union campaigns, and lobbying the government to weaken labor laws. The director of policy at the labor-backed Economic Policy Institute reported employers spend about $340 million a year on consultants that help keep workers from unionizing. And management breaks the law in 41% of union elections. But unions are still struggling to get economic justice for union and non-union workers. And in this week's issue of The Nation, P.E. Moskowitz tells about Target Workers Unite, an organization created in 2018 that currently has 500 Target employees in 40 for states, all self-trained organizers who have had some success without unions getting target management to act as it preaches. Whereas Friday's issue of the Albuquerque Journal reported that the Meow Wolf staff is currently working to unionize. Worker-owned cooperatives, businesses owned and managed by their workers, are another kind of organization workers formed to try to get their due. The United States Federation of Workers' Cooperatives website says it has 100 plus and growing worker cooperatives, and that Democratic workplace members represent over 1,600 individual worker owners. My personal preference, however, is for the kind of system organized to give workers their due that's known as co-determination, the unique way in which Germans have the right to elect their representatives to their companies' supervisory boards. And most of what I shall say about it is what I found online in a 2017 article by Arthur Sullivan called Representing Workers the German Way. And he says the idea that German workers should have proper presentation and status has a long history, going back to the guild system in medieval times, dedicated workers' councils at the time of the 1848 Frankfurt Parliament, and again under the Weimar Republic. But it was not compatible with the Nazi era. Co-determination, however, reemerged with the post-war German democracy, and the Co-Determination Act of 1976 allows for workers in public and private companies with more than 2,000 employees to elect up to half the members of their company's supervisory boards of directors, and companies with 500 to 2,000 employees to elect up to a third, giving workers a powerful say in how their companies are run, from overall strategy to everyday minutiae. And there are also workers' councils established by the German Workers' Council Constitution Act, which are representative groups drawn from a company's employee base and designated to further co-determination rights, particularly concerning matters of employee welfare. Workers in any private company with more than 5 employees are entitled to have a workers' council. In Germany, there are also joint employee and employers unions, not usually within a company, but instead within an industry. And they negotiate wages and pay scales. A February 2019 article by Stephen Hills shows that there is interest in co-determination in the United States. The article says that over the past year in the United States, German-style co-determination has moved closer to center stage in the national debate over inequality and workers' rights. Several high-profile Democratic Party leaders, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, have proposed partially worker-elected boards of directors for major corporations. Senate Bill 3348 is gaining attention, not only as a response to the right-wing populism of President Donald Trump, but also as the United States tries to cope with the long-term decline of trade unions and workers' rights. This bill aims not only to introduce co-determination to the United States, but more broadly to transform the skewed market incentives of shareholder capitalism that push companies to invest far more in maximizing shareholder value than in their workforces and communities. It seeks to reverse the trends that over the last 30 years have led to record corporate profits and rising worker productivity, but stagnant wages and declining labor power. Matthew Iglesias wrote in Vox that Warren's proposals could save capitalism. And Lenore Palladino, an assistant professor at the University in Massachusetts, says, for the last 4 decades, large corporations have given the maximization of shareholder value as their sole goals. And the reading that Susan gave us pointed out that half of United States households own no stock at all. But I do want to add that pension funds do own stock. Palladino says also, workers are crucial stakeholders for the success of large corporations. Therefore, they should be represented on decision-making corporate boards. And I think that goes a long way to giving labor its due.
As always, we extend a sincere invitation to you to respond to what you have heard and experienced here. Please use either our services webpage, our YouTube page, or our Facebook site to let us know what you're thinking and feeling about all that we've shared here. Thank you. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice and your chalice at home as the words appear on your screen. Gone from sight, but not from our minds or hearts. Our chalice flame still burns within us. May it inspire us continually as we seek to live the truth we have seen in its light. Shalom and Amen.
May we each find peace within ourselves and joy at some good we may do for another, despite the chaotic and troubling times in which we live. And may we and ours, and as many others as possible, stay safe. Amen.
Our star